Okay, so right out of the gate, I'd like to mention that it's entirely up to you as to what text editor you should use. In this course, I will be using Visual Studio Code as my text editor of choice. I believe that for TypeScript as well as other languages, it's one of the best text editors out there at the moment. Others like Atom and Sublime are also great, but the reason that I chose to go with VS Code is twofold. One is that it supports TypeScript natively, and two is that it ships with the Emmet plugin, which is great for building front-end applications. Also, VS Code has a bunch of extensions for other languages such as C#, Python, C++, Go. Basically, you name it, chances are it'll have an extension for it. So for those of you that are already comfortable with using your own favorite editor, feel free to skip this section and I will see you in the next video. Alright, so to download VS Code, navigate to code.visualstudio.com, and to download it is real easy. All you have to do is click on this little green download button here. I already have it downloaded in my downloads folder, so I'll just open that up. And in terms of a Mac-based installation, it comes in a zip file, so you just sort of have to extract it here. And for those of you that are on a Windows machine, I'm pretty sure the installation is similar. Just follow whatever the installation, default guidelines are. Okay, so once the application file has been extracted, just drag it into the applications folder and then navigate to it. The first time you open up an application on a Mac, what you have to do is right click on it inside of the applications folder and then click open in the little pop-up window here. Alright, so once your Visual Studio Code opens up, it brings you to a welcome screen, which is pretty self-explanatory. The only thing I wanted to show you though was the printable keyboard cheat sheet link here in the help section. If you click on it, it brings you to a PDF file online that details a lot of the keyboard shortcuts for VS Code. I personally find this document quite useful. Alright, so back in our VS Code, the other thing I wanted to show you was the command palette, which you can get into by pressing Shift Command P. And it brings up a window that has a lot of the different command lines that are available to you in VS Code. So, but the one that I want to show you now is the one that's highlighted, the install code command and path command. What this does is it links up VS Code and it puts it into your environment variable, your system environment variable, allowing you to launch VS Code from within a terminal if you're on a Mac machine, or within command prompt if you're on Windows. So just to demonstrate, let's click on it and you should get this little message down here that says shell command code successfully installed in path. And let's navigate to our terminal, and we're in our sandbox folder from our last video. So if we list out all of the files that are in there, we should see our hello world.js and hello world.ts files. So now, because of the fact that VS Code is kind of a system variable application, now what we can do is we can type in code and then space dot forward slash, and this dot forward slash, it just means that we're opening up the current directory. So press enter, and this directory should open up in VS Code. So it's nice and simple, and now we can see that our hello world JS and hello world TS files are in there, and they're obviously much better to look at than they were when we were using Vim. So it's all nicely colored. Alright, so when you first install VS Code, you will probably want to customize its settings according to your personal preferences. To do that, click on the little settings icon here in the lower left hand corner, then click on settings, which will bring up the settings GUI. Now, as you can see, there are a bunch of different options for you to choose from, such as font size, font family, tab size, etc. So the GUI is one option that is available to you when customizing settings. However, personally, I like working with the settings.json file up here in the upper right hand corner of the screen. So as you can see on the left hand side, you have your default user settings that come standard with VS Code, and then on the right hand side you see your own customized settings, your own customized user settings. So in my case, I just put in a couple of lines of text. I customized my font size, my integrated terminal font size to 14 and 16 pixels respectively, and then I turn on my word wrap. So I don't have many customizations in my settings. However, let's say that you would want to change your font family from all of this to something else. To do that is really easy. All you have to do is click on the little crayon icon here and then copy to settings, which then copies that line of text to your user settings pane, and then from here you can just change this to whatever you like. So for example, Times New Roman, let's say, and then click save, which as you can see automatically changes your customization. Now this looks pretty ugly to me, so I will be taking this out. But it's just as simple as that. Personally, again, I like working with the text version better just because I can see what my customizations are. Right here it's nice and easy, as opposed to in the settings I have to sort through all of the different options and figure out which ones were changed. So I just find this quicker and easier, but obviously choose the option that works for you. The next thing I want to do is show you Emmet. Emmet is an abbreviations plugin that comes standard with VS Code. This plugin is very useful when typing out boilerplate HTML code. So to demonstrate, let's go ahead and create a simple HTML file by clicking on this little empty sheet icon here. Let's call it emmet.html. And to type out your standard HTML template, you would normally have to declare your doc type of HTML. Then you would need your HTML starting tag. Inside of that, you would need your head with a title at least. And then underneath your head, you would need your body tag. So this is all pretty standard and pretty tedious. What Emmet allows you to do is type all this out with just one keystroke. All you have to do is type an exclamation mark, press enter, and it gives you a nice little template to work with. So now all you have to do is just change your title here, and then put in whatever content you would like. Now, so that's not all of what Emmet does. Emmet also gives you some dummy text. So for that, all you have to do is start typing out the word lorem, press enter, and it gives you a bunch of dummy text. It's all gibberish obviously, but it gives you what, like 3 lines of text. So let's say that you're a web developer for your company. Chances are you're not gonna actually be typing out the content of whatever web page you're creating. Somebody else will be doing it. Like, this is just a nice quick way of putting in some dummy text so everybody knows like where the content will go. Emmet also has nesting operators such as children. So let's say you have a div element, and inside of that div element you would have a unordered list, and then inside of that unordered list you would have a list item. So just sort of a childlike nested element structure. So for that you would simply type out div greater than sign unordered list ul greater than sign again list item li. Press enter, and Emmet gives you a nice little block of code, div, unordered list, and then a list item. Alright, it also has siblings. So let's say you want a couple of elements here. You want a div element a paragraph element and a section element right next to one another. So for that, you would just simply type out div plus sign paragraph, P for paragraph, plus sign section. And Emmet gives you three elements here: div, paragraph, and section. So they're siblings. It also has multiplication. So let's say you have an unordered list with a bunch of list items. So for that, all you have to do is type out UL and then have your greater sign and a bunch of list item children. Then you need a multiplication sign and then a number by which you're multiplying it by. So let's say 8. Press enter, and it generates a nice block of code giving you a bunch of list items here. Okay, next we have grouping. So what grouping is let's say you have or you want a section, and then inside of that section you want two different types of divs. So one div will have, let's say, a header and a paragraph, and the other div will have an unordered list with a bunch of list items. To write such a thing out, you would need to write out your section. Then inside of that section you would have your first group, and to declare a group inside of Emmet you just need the parentheses here. Okay, and then whatever goes inside of the parentheses will be your first child, right? So for that one, let's say it'll be a div, and then inside of that div you will have a header. Then inside of that header you will have a paragraph, and then the other child you would put in a plus sign for that, and it would also be a div. But then this time this div would have an unordered list with a bunch of list items, let's say 5, and each one of these list items would have an anchor tag. Press enter, and there you go. It generates this block of code. It has two different div elements inside of this section. Okay, so that's grouping. So Emmet also has attribute operators. So let's say that you want your div to have some kind of an ID. For that, all you have to do is type out div hashtag some ID, enter, and it gives you an ID. I'm sorry, a div of ID of some ID. Very similar when it comes to specifying your classes as well. For that, you just need the dot operator. So it'd be div dot some class, enter, and again you have a div element of a class of some class. Okay, next we have a custom attribute. So let's say you have a form that you need this form to have a title attribute and a department attribute. Now these are custom attributes, and to do that all you need is to specify those inside of an array type brackets, such as these. So in this case, let's say you would have a title attribute, and it would be form XYZ, and then you would also have a department attribute. It would be, let's say, your company's customer service department, right? You press that, you press enter, and it gives you a form element with your custom attributes of title and department. Okay, so what you can also do is you can number your items. So let's say you have an unordered list with a bunch of line items that you would want each one of your list items to have a numbered class, right? So to demonstrate that, let me type this out. So it will be a UL with a greater than sign. Then you would have a list item of a line class, and then each each class would be numbered. So for that, you have to put in a $sign. So this $sign actually it numbers your line class here, and then you simply just multiply it by, let's say, 3 for 3 of those list items, right? And there you have it. So now you have your class numbered: line 1, line 2, and line 3. All right. You can also put in some dummy text, right? So let's say that you have an anchor tag, and let's say you have 3 of those, and you want some dummy text to be input inside of those anchor tags. All you have to do is just put in little brackets, and inside of these brackets you would put in some text. Press enter, and there you have it. So it generates a bunch of anchor tags with whatever text. And obviously you can combine all of these abbreviations, right? So let's say you have some sort of complicated element that, let's say it's a div, and then inside of that it has another div, it has an unordered list of a bunch of anchor tags with classes and text in it. So for that you would need to simply type out div, give it an ID of some, let's say div ID. Okay, then inside of that you would have another div of some div class, let's say, and then its sibling would be a UL of I don't know, some UL ID, and then inside of that UL you would have a list item. Let's say you would have 5 of those, and each list item would be an anchor tag, and then each anchor tag would have whatever link number. So a link number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? So for that, all you have to do is just type the $sign, press enter, and there it is. So now you have a div with ID of some div ID, then you have another div inside of that with a class in it, and then a UL with a bunch of anchor tags that have ascending link numbers 1 through 5. Okay, so that's sort of the basics of Emmet. There's a whole lot of other features that it has, but I'm not gonna go through all of it. If you want more information, then navigate, just open up your favorite browser and navigate to emmet.io. And this website will have a bunch of documentation and a bunch of other information that will be available to you. Okay, and the last thing I want to show you in VS Code are extensions. So if you click on the little extensions icon here at the bottom, it'll bring up the extensions pane. And at the moment, I only have 2 extensions enabled: the bracket pair Colorizer extension and the live server. So let me show you both of these. So first up we have the bracket pair Colorizer extension, which is pretty simple. Basically, all it does is color your brackets accordingly. In this case, we have an if statement here where its contents are bracketed off with blue brackets, and then the update document function, its contents are bracketed off with purple brackets. So it just helps me to visualize my code. I personally like it. The other one that I use oftentimes is the live server extension. Basically what this does is it refreshes it runs your browser as a live server, and then it refreshes it anytime you save your document. So let's say you're working on this index.html file here. Every time you would put something in there, like a new line of code or whatever, it would be reflected automatically inside your browser. Obviously, both of these extensions are not, necessary. I like them because they just simplify my workflow. If you want more extensions, or if you're interested in what the popular extensions are out there at the moment, just click the little triple dot icon here at the top and click on the Show Popular Extensions link. and this will show you a bunch of popular extensions at the moment. Just sort of as a general comment here, when you're working with extensions, chances are you will only install them when you either A, need something specific, or B, you're working on a new programming language. But in any case, this function is available to you down here at the bottom. So that wraps up our VS Code introduction. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you got something out of it. Feel free to ask your questions in the comments section, and thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe.